Welcome to In Edina, a program about the people, places, and activities, all from the City of Edina. I'm your host, Lillian McDonald, and we bring you this broadcast from beautiful Fire Station Number 1. Joining us to talk about this fabulous facility, the Fire Chief, of course, Marty Shearer. Welcome to In Edina.
Thanks, Lillian. Pleasure to be here.
This is really nice. I remember when we were here, like the last week before the old fire station was retired.
Right, about 2 years ago, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
And that one started in what, 1969?
That was built in 1969. It was an older fire station, but at the time it was considered a very nice fire station, but it was built strictly for firefighter men, about 4 or 5 of them, and just firefighting. It wasn't built for a lot of the services that we provide today.
Yeah, so now you're all spread out in this beautiful facility. Tell us a little bit about it.
The facility is great. It's much, much larger, even though the footprint of the building is about the same size, about 10% bigger, but the facility is almost twice as big. We have 12 apparatus bays across, and we only had 8 before. We've got lots of storage space when we had none before. We've got lots of amenities. We have a women's locker room, which we never had. We have a workout room, which we never had. We have a training room. We have separate sleeping quarters for all the personnel. It's just a really wonderful facility.
And spreading out the gear is a good thing because it makes it easier to get in and get out,
the flow of the fire station is really nice when the firefighters are in the station working in various functions. When the alarm goes off, which we might hear while we're here, the flow is all directed towards the vehicles and then get on the trucks, and it's actually improved our response time a little bit.
What is the average response time these days?
We're proud to say it's 4 minutes. 4 minutes anywhere, pretty much anywhere in the city is our average response time.
Well, every little bit helps when you're in an emergency. Right. The business has changed too, hasn't it, over the years?
Dramatically. It used to be that we were firefighters and only firefighters, and now we're doing emergency medical services, or called EMS. That's 80% of our business. We also do special rescues like structural collapse, confined space rescue, trench rescue, rope rescues, water rescue, ice rescue. We do all kinds of hazardous materials mitigation, so we do a lot more than we ever used to. And firefighting is one of the smaller percentages of what we do, but it's still a big thing that we do. It's very important that we do it. So we have to be trained in a lot more different disciplines that we ever used to be, a lot more training going on, and then we have a training room now to do all that in, and a much better station to complete our task.
And tools too. You've got room to grow. I mean, you have the same amount of trucks here.
Same number of vehicles. We didn't have room for all the vehicles before. Now we have room for them all. We actually have room to expand if we ever add more vehicles. This big white truck behind us is our big structural collapse vehicle. We didn't have room for all the equipment that we had there with that team now. Now we have the room for it. And we're expanding that operation too. That's mostly grant funded by the federal government, and they've been really good to us. We've been good to them, and it's been a good partnership.
You've got, what, about a dozen firefighters now?
We have about a dozen paid on-call firefighters, and we have 31 full-time firefighters.
So you clearly have grown the business through the years.
The business has grown. I think when we started in this station, there was, I believe, like 21 firefighters total. Okay. And now we have about in the 50s. So.
Was there a nominal cost, really, for what you get?
Right. The average homeowner just pays a few dollars a month for this facility. We had saved some money intending to build the facility. We were always looking at either remodeling or building new, and it came out to be cheaper in the long run to build a new station versus remodel the old station.
And you have been here for quite a while now.
I have. I started when I was real young, and now I've been here 28 years. Yeah.
You must be pretty proud of your team and of course the facility as well. What do you see for the future?
First of all, yes, we have the best staff around. We have a really good staff, and we see a lot of the same things that we're doing now, but also expanding our mission. We're going to continue to try to serve the community in whatever needs it might need, and we might expand our special operations, we might expand our EMS functions a little bit more, and we're always striving on fire prevention to put ourselves out of business. We don't want to have fires, so the cheapest and most economical way to fight fires is to prevent them before they start.
Now, you can tell a story about a situation not too long ago where a couple of residents came to the rescue of an individual.
Right. Early April, there was a house fire, and a gentleman was in the basement of his house. He heard the fire. He's partially handicapped. He's a very large man. He was able to make it to the top of the steps, but he wasn't able to get out of the house. He was kind of overcome by smoke and heat, and the neighbors ran from next door and across the street, saw the fire. It was actually rolling out the windows were exploding. When they got there, they heard the man yelling for help on the floor inside. They broke a window. They took a grasp of air, ran in, tried to tug on him a little bit, pulled him a few inches, ran out, got another breath of fresh air, came back in, and they pulled him, and they were able to pull the man out in just a few minutes. But he was a very large guy. These people were really heroes. They saved his life. And
of course, you don't recommend folks getting involved in things like that.
They probably should have never done that. It was very, very dangerous. There was lots of heat, lots of fire, lots of smoke, and it all worked out great this time. But yeah, that's something they should leave for us. But in this case, it was probably the right thing to do. It all worked out good, and they really are heroes.
Well, it's great that you're involved in the community too, and that the community likes to give back as well. And clearly, we have given this beautiful facility, and it helps you do your job, which makes us all feel good in the long run.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a really nice thing that the firefighters all had a lot of input on the building of the station and the design of the station. Each group took their own, like the fire prevention people designed their fire prevention office, and the EMS person that buys all the medications designed the storage area. And so everyone had a part in building the station, and it turned out really well.
Great. Well, it looks great, and I'm glad it makes you do your job better.
Thanks.
Thanks so much for letting us be here, Marty, and all the best, and stay safe out there.
Thank you.
Ruth Schmoll isn't a firefighter, but for the Edina Fire Department, she plays a very key role, and she's done that work for almost 34 years. Welcome to Edina.
Hello.
So you're an admin assistant, but really you're in charge, right?
Right. There's 40 people here, and only 3 of us are women, and the women have to run the place. So that works out well.
And you've done it for a long, long time, so you've seen an awful lot of change, a new facility now, but through the years, you actually were a dispatcher when you first got started.
Right, yep. It was a secretarial work and dispatching, and then for all the fire and medical calls. And then when the 911 system began in the metro area, then that part of my job was taken over by our police communications center.
So the technology actually changed your role.
It did, yeah. But the number of our calls has quadrupled since I started. So it's still a very busy place and a lot of things to do.
What do you like about it the most?
I like the fact that every day is different, and there's never any one routine that goes on. And in a second, everything can change. And that still makes it kind of exciting, even though some things seem kind of routine. And the other part of my job I like are the people that I work with. Just from the day I started, it's just a great group of people to work with.
Now, basically, you're behind the scenes, making sure the office is running smoothly, making sure firefighter recruits and firefighter employees or volunteers fit in and have what they need to do their jobs every single day. And you said the technology has just changed everything.
Yeah. Yes, when I first started, the paramedic program was just beginning, and the ambulance service was very limited back in the mid-'70s. And now the technology and the level of service provided and the busyness of the department is really, really changed.
You've also seen people change over time.
Yes, I have. When I first started, the chief officers were all like fathers to me, and the firefighters seemed like big brothers. And over the years, it's evolved to where the chief officers are now like kid brothers, and the paramedic firefighters that we're hiring now, in fact, are the same age as my children. So that's really changed.
Mm-hmm. Well, you get to know people over time, And that strengthens the unit as well, because you get to know them inside and out, on duty and in the toughest times.
It is a family operation, that's for sure.
Well, and we're glad that you helped keep it running strong, Ruth. Thanks so much for joining us on In Edina today.
Thank you.
Emergency medical services take up the bulk of the calls in the fire department, and that means a medical director keeps things running smoothly. And joining us to talk about his role as the medical director, Dr. Jeffrey Ho. Welcome to In Edina.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. We also should say that you work in the emergency department at Hennepin County Medical Center as well.
That's correct.
And that, of course, translates nicely here, where you are basically train and work with the paramedics.
That's right. You know, clinically I see patients in an emergency department, so I'm used to the emergency setting and taking care of emergency medical problems. But in my off hours, I do the medical direction for the city here and work with the police and fire department responders.
Mm-hmm. How much training goes into a paramedic position here?
It's ongoing, it's continuous. So they have to have a certain level to get hired here and to actually be certified to do their job, and that requires, you know, months and months of paramedic school. But once they're finished and actually become employees here to work, it's an ongoing process of continuing education. Technology in medicine is always changing how it understands pathology and what happens in disease processes. And that's my job to continually train them on any of the new updates to ensure that we're using the best equipment available to take care of patients in the field and to make sure that they have the knowledge base and the skills to be able to do that.
That's on a general basis. On a routine basis, what are you typically working on?
As far as here at the department, I'm always looking at, I guess, what we would call quality assurance. You know, one of the things that's ongoing is you want to make sure that the citizens of this city are getting the highest care possible. So it's always my job to make sure that the paramedics are offering that, and that's through things like reviewing their runs, discussing cases with them, following up on patients, and, you know, sometimes issues that come up. On the other side of that is just the continuing education process, so meeting with them on a regular basis to evaluate their skills, making sure that they can do certain things, and having me evaluate that just to make sure they're doing it properly and that they don't have any questions. And continually evaluating the equipment and the medications and things like that we carry to make sure that we're using the latest and greatest things that are out there.
Mm-hmm. Now, the services here are a little bit unique because the response time is quicker. We have some luxuries here.
Yeah, you know, the response time standard is probably a good one to talk about. And in the city of Edina, we have great response times, and that's due to the fact that the citizens have some control of their own EMS service here. It's dedicated only to the city and doesn't really stray beyond those boundaries. So the response time standard here is very, very good.
And that's different compared to other cities because they don't have their own services, or they have to share services, or how do they work?
They generally share services, and to put it into context, just living in Hennepin County, there is a response time standard which puts us in this whole region generally above most other areas of the country. The response time standard for Hennepin County is 10 minutes and 59 seconds, 90% of the time that you will get a paramedic ambulance with 2 paramedics on the ambulance at every call. That 10 minute and 59 seconds, most other areas in the country don't have a response time standard like that. So that actually is better than most areas. However, Edina exceeds that several times. I think our response time here is on average somewhere in the 4-minute range,
yes.
Which is really, really excellent.
And that makes a difference between life and death many times.
Well, it certainly can in certain calls. And, you know, obviously not every call is a true emergency, but if you're the person on the other end of the phone calling, you want somebody there right away.
Yeah, exactly, that it's important for you. What do you see in the future of emergency medical services?
You know, it's hard to predict. Everything is always changing, but what I do see is the implementation of new technology. One of the things that we're working on right now, in fact, is we're utilizing something called ultrasound in the back of an ambulance to help us evaluate patients and make better, what we call triage decisions. Ultrasound allows us to get photographic images of the inside of the body to evaluate things like trauma or pregnancy or, you know, a variety of different conditions. And knowing that information helps the paramedics determine, number one, what the problem is, number two, what should be done about that, and oftentimes, number three, what destination hospital they need to go to. So those all play into that decision, and being able to use that type of technology is a huge advancement in patient care for the field.
And that is a testament of your training ability, too, of keeping things running smoothly here.
I think it's actually more a testament of the folks that I work with here. Very motivated personalities that work here. The city should be very happy with the services they have and the individuals that work in this fire department.
Thanks for being humble. It is a team effort after all. Dr.
Absolutely.
Jeffrey Ho, we really appreciate your time on In Edina. Thanks for all you do as medical director.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. A little later in the show, we'll be talking about how to be safe around the pool. That's outside, but inside, we want to be safe at home. And joining us to talk about some home prevention fire tips, Tom Jensen, Fire Marshal. Welcome to In Edina.
Thank you.
This is an important topic. People think they remember all the time to be safe at home, but the biggest cause of fires at home are?
Men, women, and children.
And unfortunately, it happens over and over and over again.
Right. It's all about human behavior. We need to change our human behavior when it comes to fires, and you know, whatever our top causes of fires are, it's in the kitchen on the top of the stove, and you know, we start that pan of oil or some meat and stuff going on there. We get distracted, you know, answer the phone, whatever, and forget to pay attention to what we're doing or turn the stove off if you have to walk away for a few minutes. But that's how fast things can start, just distracted for a few minutes, and all of a sudden you got a stove fire.
Our lives are so busy, we're trying to multitask all the time. I'm guilty of it too. I'll start the stove and go to the computer, and the next thing you know, I'm into the email. That's a problem.
It's amazing when you walk away and go do something, and you come back, maybe you have the timer set on the stove, and you realize that I've really been gone for 5 minutes.
That's a long time.
Yeah, it's a very long time.
Very long time for fire starting. It's easy to do. So food on the stove, most common?
Most common, #1 fire across the country and here in Edina.
Okay. Followed by?
Probably next is candles, space heaters in the wintertime, heating type appliances in the wintertime. People trying to take shortcuts, trying to think they can save some money and going to put a space heater in their room, and all of a sudden it's too close to combustibles next to the couch, whatever, and something gets going.
And we're seeing more of that too now with people
Yeah.
trying to cut corners.
It's
And
across the country this winter, January, February, big increase in that kind of fire.
So the thing to do, of course, is be prepared as much as you can at home with common tools, fire alarm, smoke detector, and things like that. Let's talk about the fire alarm that you have in your hand. This is a pretty inexpensive safety tool.
Exactly. The smoke alarm is so important to be in our homes today. It's saving lives every day. We've had saves already this year in Edina. But there's been a lot of deaths already across the country from not having working smoke alarms in
How
the
many
house.
of these smoke alarms should you have in a house?
You should have at least one in every sleeping room, one outside the sleeping rooms, and one on every floor. It would be an ideal situation.
So hang it outside the sleeping room?
Right in the hallway, typically outside the sleeping room. If you
Okay.
sleep on rooms on both ends of the house, then you don't have two outside those.
So 3-bedroom house, 3 fire alarms.
4, actually, because you got the 3 bedrooms and the one in the hallway.
And what about the kitchen? I actually have one in my kitchen. This probably isn't the best spot for
Not
you
a
to
good
have
place
it.
for it, yeah. If people are concerned about the kitchen, you can always go out and buy a heat detector, and that does the same thing the smoke alarm does. It just sensing heat conditions. But yeah, the smoke alarm in the kitchen is not a good idea.
Okay.
Always false alarming. Then people have a habit, go up there, take it down from the ceiling,
Yeah.
pull the battery out.
I burnt toast, took
Yeah.
the battery out, and you
And then I
forget
forgot
it.
about it.
Okay.
In our busy lifestyle, we forget about that. Don't put it back in, and then that night you have the fire, and the alarm's not there to protect you.
Basement?
Basement for sure, yeah. Bottom of the stairs.
Bottom of the stairs for the basement. So this is change the battery, once a year, right?
Once a year, if you pick an anniversary date or pick something that's in your mind, most times we just talk about changing the clocks. In the fall, we change your batteries.
Now, they don't last forever.
No, these have a 10-year life on them. So at 10 years, you should be replacing that smoke alarm. And on the back side is the date. And when it was manufactured, that's the date you go after.
Okay. Now, this is the carbon monoxide detector, too.
Yes.
And this is also a critical tool for keeping folks safe, because carbon monoxide is odorless, right?
Odorless, tasteless, can't see, smell, or taste it. And you could have that gas in your room right now and not know it if you don't have the alarm in the house.
And many times you don't know until you have some symptoms, and,
Right.
and it's by then it could be too late. So one of these, how much do these run? These are
Well, that particular one's probably in that $40 range. There is a state law now that requires carbon monoxide within 10 feet of sleeping rooms. And you don't have to go out and buy the expensive ones. You can probably pick, I don't know, I'm not sure on the prices, but there are cheaper battery-operated ones. This
Sure.
happens to be a battery and plug-in style.
Okay.
But it's important that the battery one be within that sleeping room area.
So how many of these do you need in the house?
Just one.
Okay.
Unless
and
you're
this handles the whole house.
Right. Unless your sleeping rooms, again, are on different levels, you need to have one outside those sleeping rooms.
So this will pick up, it detects anything. I have one of these in the house, and just the slightest bit of carbon monoxide, and this thing will go on.
Right. And we've had some great saves already in our city. We've gone out on CO alarms, got into the house, go in there with our sensors, start checking it, and we find, I think we've had 2 or 3 water heaters that we've found to be faulty, and then we bring the gas company with us, and they do the red tagging, telling you have to replace that. So some very close calls here.
That's inside.
That's inside.
But outside, recreational fires are also a hazard.
Yep, starting heading that season here in the spring where people want to be outside in the backyards and have that fire going at night. And our problem that we have most times is people aren't being neighborly, letting their neighbors know, hey, I want to have the fire tonight, or they're doing it in high wind conditions, and which isn't allowed by our permit. But the wind drives the smoke in the neighbors' windows, and they don't like it, and then we get the calls and have to go out and investigate that.
Have to have a permit to have a rec fire?
Yeah, you have a permit. There's no charge for it, but that's the way you find out about the rules. And the rules can change from year to year, so we just ask you to fill out a new one each year.
And again, just some smart habits. Don't use gasoline to start the rec fire.
No flammable liquids. Start it with newspaper, whatever, but do not use gasoline. We need to learn from a couple of events that happened last year.
That can cause serious injury,
very serious
of
injuries,
course.
yeah.
And of course, make sure it's out when you're finished
Exactly.
at night.
Fill it up with water when you're done.
Yeah, because even a single little spark, wind catches that, and you could have a serious, serious problem on your hands. And if you want to find out more about the permit situation or the rules of recreational fires, the city website will have some, and also you have a hotline, right?
Yeah, we have a hotline number to call to see if it's okay to burn, to have that fire today.
Okay, all right. Tom, thank you so much for keeping us all safe at home and out for fun, and we appreciate it. And we'll have you back on In Edina as usual.
Great, thank you.
Well, now's a great time to go out and get swimming. Great exercise, fun in the sun, but also we want to be safe. And joining us to talk about how to do just that are Solveig Wilmot, she's the pool inspector for the City of Edina, and also Todd Porthen, firefighter here for the City of Edina. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Let's start with just getting the pool open and getting it started so it's all nice and safe and clean.
Right. There are about 85 pools that are inspected by the City of Edina, and they are located in apartments and condos, and then also our public pool. And for them to open, they do have to be sure that their water quality is up to par. That means that they have chlorine and a pH balance, and that there's clarity in the water, that you can see the pool drain. They have to have signage to indicate whether there's a lifeguard needed or not, no running at the pool deck, those kind of signages. They make sure the ladders are secure to get in and out of the pool.
And the drains are covered.
And that they have the proper drain cover now with our new law, so that they have less of a chance for a suction entrapment event. So those are just the basics when you step out to the pool. We check also the equipment, the flow meters, to make sure that there's a flow happening at the proper rate for water disinfectant, to be sure it's safe.
Sure. And for residents that have pools that they're taking care of too, too much chlorine, not enough. I mean, some things you can do around the home.
Right, and as far as the City of Edina goes, we don't really step into your backyard to check your pool, so it is a personal responsibility to check on that. It is important that they keep the water chlorine at a disinfecting level that's going to be successful, because you really don't want to have your children or your neighbors getting ill if they're enjoying your body of water. And the disinfectant is very effective in keeping down a waterborne illness that can cause a diarrhea or a vomiting event. So those are important factors, whether you have a public pool or a private pool.
And of course, you want to be fenced in around the pool as well for safety reasons.
Correct. In the City of Edina, residential pools are required to be fenced, including the above-ground pool. And that truly is one of the best safety measures, besides having a self-closing, self-latching gate and eyes on the kids at all times, to make sure that only the people are getting to use the pool that you've given permission to and that you are supervising.
And Todd, it doesn't take a lot of water to have an accident.
Correct. Whether it's bathtubs, yard pools, in-ground, above ground, or the lakes we swim in every year, there's a few key elements that need to be in place. for prevention for water safety.
Some common safety tips that we can all follow this year.
A few of the biggest ones would be get your kids involved in swimming, organized swimming programs, and they recommend that as early as 3 to 4 years of age. The other ones is eyes on is probably the most important. You need to have your eyes on the children at all times. Most of the accidents that happen, drownings that occur, over half of them occur with one or both parents watching the children at the time, being around but not eyes on.
Yep, multitasking again, you know, if you've got too many things going on.
Correct, and don't get the false sense of safety from flotation devices or in the bathtubs, infant seats, because just walking away to answer a quick phone call or the doorbell, it can cause a drowning.
Some flotation devices, if you're boating, for instance, obviously it's a law. You've got to have one per person on the boat, right?
Correct, and you need to make sure they're Coast Guard approved, they're proper fitting, and they're on correctly.
Okay. And fire calls, some of the calls you have when people are running around the pool as well at home, or just common accidents.
Yes, that is correct. Most of our accidents actually occur out of the water from slipping and falling, head injuries and things like that. So we really discourage, running and playing rough play around the pool areas because decks get very slippery.
Okay, eyes on with the kids. Get some lessons if you aren't a strong swimmer. Flotation devices rule. Make sure your pool is pH balanced and everything else. All right, we thank you both very much for a safe summer and
Thank
for
you.
joining us on In Edina. We hope you've enjoyed this show. We'd like to thank all of our guests for their information this time and to you for watching. Special thanks to Fire Station Number 1 for allowing us to bring you this broadcast from their beautiful, fine new facility. I'm your host, Lillian McDonald. You've been watching In Edina. Until next time, have a great day.